going to show you how to make a coil pot. Welcome to Clay on a Tray, Art at Home. I think I just said that the wrong way around, from Leamspaartgallery Art Gallery and Museum, or actually my studio in Warwick. I'm Sally Lark, and we're continuing in the series about clay on a tray, which links to our exhibition Making Histories. Now today I'm going to be teaching you how to start making coil pots. So that's making lots of little sausages, wormy things to build pots. Some of the things I refer to, you may need to reference back to some of the other videos that you can find on our YouTube channel. Now before we do that, I promised at the end of the last session to talk to you about your finished work that's just looking a bit clayey and a bit like it could do with a kiln and some firing, and some ways of making it look a little bit more finished. Now shoe polish is a really good way of decorating clay. So shoe polish, furniture polish, wax, all those kind of things you can use. Now I stupidly last year sorted out all my shoe polish, so I've only got these posh modern creams. I used to have those tins of old shoe polish, but they all dried up. Anyway, so I worked out that using a combination of a bit of the shoe cream and a bit of wax that I use for polishing furniture works out really well, and I'm just applying that with a toothbrush to the surface of the pot. And what's really lovely is that the brown pigment, so if you had red you could use that, all different kinds of shoe covering, starts to fill where you've put the texture and creates a lovely finish. Now when that dries, you can see already it's starting to just look a bit more mottled, a bit more grown up, a bit more finished. You can then polish that with a rag and enjoy smoothing and working. You can imagine how quite quickly that starts to have a sheen already. It becomes really a bit more beautiful. So enjoy polishing. Cool, mine's a bit strong actually. This wax polish is rather pungent. Anyway, I'll put that to one side because we're going to have a look at coiling now. Now I thought you'd like to see, I quite often use coiling. I like using lots of different methods. This was a coil pot that I made as part of my degree show when I was 20 or something. So that's quite nice to show you that, or 21. And this was also a pot that I made from coiling. So there are lots and lots of different things and lots of easy ways of working. So I have to speed the process up so you're not bored on the video. I've started by making a little sort of thumb pot by just squeezing the base of a pot. So that's, I'm going to be making a pot like that. Then I'm going to put that to one side for a minute, and we're going to have a go at practicing rolling coils. Now it's actually quite easy once you've got the hang of it. It's like one of those things, it kind of looks easier than it is. So get yourself a bit of clay and squeeze it into a sort of sausage shape. And then you will need a board or your flat tray or something for this. Now you could, if you haven't got a wooden board, put fabric down, but you might get in a mess. So it is easier to roll out on a flat surface, maybe even the kitchen worktop, which would be very nice. Anyway, so you've got your sausage and then you're going to roll it out. Now use your hands so that they become almost like rollers. So we're rolling. And as you're rolling your coil, it will start maybe sometimes to go flat on one side, so you can just squeeze it. And I'm using my hands to work up and down to get even thickness. Now what you don't want, if I show you with this, is to start rolling, getting it too thin and all different thicknesses. So you want it a nice, chunky, even thickness coil, okay? Now I love coiling. It is, I think, one of my favourite methods of making. And when you start to make lots of coil pots, you have to make them in batches, because if I carried on with coils like this all day building, it would sag, because the weight, there's too much water in the clay, and it would collapse. But if you build just a few coils a day, you can find that you can have a scaffolding underneath you and you keep it just the right level of softness and hardness, and then you can gradually grow a much bigger pot, and the possibilities are endless. So before you start, you should have some sort of intention as to what shape you're going to make. So you could coil a straight cylinder like we did with the tube pots, but I'm now going to sort of have the intention of making a sort of tall bowl, so that sort of shape, almost like a tulip shape. So I'm going to start with my first coil, and I'm going to measure it round. Now if you want to build straight, you put your coil on the top. If you want to build in, you put your coil slightly leaning on the inside, and if you want to build out, you put your coil that way. So I hope that makes sense. So I've smoothed it together, and then what we're going to do is use our fingers and our thumbs to smooth down the coil pot. Now at this point, if you're perhaps watching the video before you have a go at coiling, can I encourage you to go away and look at some of the work of different potters who coil. So one particular favourite of mine is Magdalena Dobu. I think that's how you say her name. But if you want to look more locally, Nicola Richards coils and makes beautiful pots and is a particular specialist at this method. So do go and have a look at those people. So I'm going to be smoothing in with my thumb, and at all times I am supporting the side that I'm not working with my other hand. So all times you're supporting your pot. And what I'm doing is smoothing round at an angle. Then I'm going to work on the other side. Now I would probably work flat, but I'm trying to show you that I'm smoothing at an angle. Okay? You could pull up, you could smooth down. It depends on the form or how you feel at that moment. So I've currently got those lines where I've joined the coil onto the pot, okay? So then we're going to go again, and we're going to make another coil. You get the idea, it's very simple, but it does just take that practice and that repeat learning. So again, we're going to roll out a coil. Some people, if they like coiling, get all their coils ready in a big pile. And it does sometimes go a bit flat. So I've got my other coil that might not be quite big enough. So then we're going to go back. And if it's not quite big enough, just join, smoothing it on. Now, as I mentioned before, we're wanting to grow the pot out. Okay, so I'm putting it slightly on the side of the pot. Then you'll see my finger marks from last time. Now, a bit like bricks, crisscross zigzag. To make a pot strong, if when you blend the next coil on, you zigzag the other way with your fingers. So I smooth that way. So now I'm going to smooth this way. It creates strength to your pot. Now, I'm not going to make you spend half an hour watching me build my pot. But what I will do is put some photographs of the different stages on at the end of the video and the finished pot that I come up with, so you can see the story of how my pot grows and develops. So have fun coiling. It is a lovely, lovely way of working. It's relaxing, it's meditative, it's sort of rhythmic and enjoyable. So do enjoy that, and I will show you what I do at the end of the video. Thank you. So I didn't want to bore you with showing you all these stages on a great big long video, but here I am, and you can see I'm gradually building up the coils one at a time, carefully placing them on the right angle of the pot to produce the shape that I want. So I'm adding another one, and then as I'm going, I'm now starting to smooth and tidy up with a kidney or a scraper. When I left my work to dry a bit, I left a cloth on the top to keep the top layer damp, and then continued to build up one layer at a time. You can see here the form is really starting to take shape. And again here you can see the angles as I'm smoothing them on and crisscrossing to keep it strong. So here's the finished pot, and then you can see gradually what a difference it makes to clean it up with by smoothing it and working with a sponge. And here I have added textures and a sort of patchwork pattern to finish it off. Hope you enjoyed.